Hey, what's up, everybody? This is American Babble, the podcast where we talk about the shit that Americans go through. Today on episode 1, we're going to talk about minimum wage. So why do you get paid minimum wage?
Well, the other thing to remember too is that you're not necessarily performing the same task and the same level, interaction with your job. You're not doing the same thing as you used to. So right now in 2019, depending on where you live, minimum wage is somewhere between, $9, $12. That's relative to whatever article you're reading. But as far as I know, like California's $12, New York City was raised to $11, $10, things like that. And, for a minimum wage job, the reason why it's called minimum is because there's a minimum amount of effort, responsibility. Most of it's responsibility for what it is that you're actually doing. You basically get paid a percentage of what you bring in the company in a certain amount of time, right? So you don't necessarily get paid for the amount of time that you're doing, but you get paid for the amount that you bring, right? That's why if everyone was getting paid on the same rate per hour, there's only so many hours and so much money that we could possibly make.
Of course.
But you have a job, say a minimum wage, say like you're a busboy or something like that. You're gonna be your job is easily trainable. It's not difficult for a lot of people to come in and like pick up a job like what we did, like back when we were both really young. We were doing construction, and of course it's like, dude, you can hand a shovel to like almost anybody. Yeah, and of course there's a basic amount of competency that goes with any amount of job, but you're not if you leave, it's not difficult to replace you, and you're not in charge of much.
Yeah,
you don't get paid.
Well, you have minimum
much.
responsibility. Like you were saying that the more responsibility you have, of course, you're worth more because you have more that you're dealing with and more that lies on your shoulders as far as what needs to get accomplished.
Yeah. So the other thing too is the value that any one person can possibly bring is totally uncapped. You can make almost any amount of money that you would like to, but there's certain criteria that go with it. Like you have to make somebody else a shit ton of money if you want to make a lot of money.
Absolutely.
It's like if, say you run a company, you're not going to pay, a worker that's been there a year, $1 million a year in salary unless they're bringing the company to $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $10 million. You're not going to do that.
Well, no, because if you did the opposite, where if they just came in and you offered them $100 an hour and they're only bringing in $100 an hour, you're going to go bankrupt in no time because you're not going to be able to afford that. You can't afford materials and your services just so you can keep them going.
Yeah. So now I think the only real place to take this after is one, the money isn't necessarily the most important thing about any one specific job that you have. It's more important, yes, to like what you do and to have something that's fulfilling and that actually makes you get up every morning and makes you happy. That's another thing that's important, that you feel like you're making a significant mark. But when we're talking money is really important to survive in any kind of relatively evolved society, because it's how you trade. That's how you get along.
Well, yeah, it replaced the barter system. It became a common use for the barter system. I mean, you can't just barter paper towels and get the same thing for bread.
Because they might not be useful to another person. So standardized place of trade was important, and also based on what you can give somebody else is also what you get paid. Now, if you want to make more money, that's different. That means that if you want to make a lot of money, you got to bring a bit more value to another person to make them pay you. Well, yeah. Now, so even if you're in the same position, like if you like what you do right now, but you want to make more money, you either need to be 1, more productive, 2, you have to bring in more clients, 3, you have to kind of like outgrow your own place. You have to do more than what you're being paid to do in order to earn more money, because you'd be like, oh, if you give me a $10 an hour raise, I will also do this. But it's like, no one was going to take a risk. No one was going to take a risk on me. When it's like, dude, you've been in the construction, like had I gone and asked for a raise after like 6 months, they'd have told me to pound sand. Yeah. They'd be like, dude, you're some kid that's still in high school. Like you're not gonna do construction and make more than a few guys that have been here for 3-4 years, which is why I was like, I would not have the balls to go ask them that.
But
no way.
But even like me though, I mean, in the construction industry, the problem was I was too good at what I did, so they didn't want me moving up the ladder.
Why would they?
Exactly, because I was making them too much money for where I was, and comparison of how much they were paying me to be there and to make that money for them. So when I walked up and said, hey, I want more responsibility, I want a raise, I want this, he just kind of looked at me cross-eyed and he's like, well, now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do I give him the money and more responsibility he's asking for, or do I risk losing him and losing all the money he's been bringing to my table?
Yeah.
And so
it's like there's a certain equilibrium that you have to have as an employer. Like when you're an employee and you're asking and you'd like to make more money, there's a few different things that you can do to actually make your employer be like, hell yeah, man, here's another G a month or whatever, like whatever your goals are.
Yeah.
You need to find a way to bring the company more money. You got to be like, you got to slay your normal responsibilities. Like if your job is to bring in like 10 new customers or to bus tables or to take orders or to package things, not only do you have to do that 100%, but you also need to start taking on more things before you will earn more money, because you have to show that you're hungry enough and that you're worth it. It's a risk to pay you more for the same job.
And you have to show that you have to establish that trust and show that you're capable of doing something before they're even going to give you a chance. Because if you were to walk up to them and be like, hey, I want to do more, they're going to say, well, prove it. And if you prove it before and build yourself a case, then you have some leverage to work with. Yep. So it's difficult to, of course, ask for more money, ask for a raise, when you don't, like you were saying earlier, you don't do that work to actually bring in that extra value so you can get paid more.
Yeah.
And a lot of it too, I'm sure there is a level of pay cap, so to speak, and depending on industry as well.
This is not necessarily a discussion about whether, all the arguments based on whether you're a female or a male worker or any kind of ethnicity or any kind of questions like that. We're just talking basic economic value inside of a marketplace. Yes, there's just certain things and certain challenges you're going to run into, depending on who you are and all the other little hurdles that come with working. Yes, but this is mostly a discussion on making more money and how do you go about that.
Yeah.
Like the other thing too is be creative. Like you got to actually take some time to plan it out. Like you don't necessarily need to start your own business or become like a social media influencer, or you don't need to do any of that to make more money. Like statistically, people that are like 40th in line at like big companies are going to make more money than almost every entrepreneur out there. Like straight
absolutely.
up. Like just because you work for yourself, like most entrepreneurs full of shit.
Yeah,
like dude, it's a title.
Yeah.
It's a title, and it's
absolutely.
like when, of course, you and I, we both have our own businesses. We're partners in other businesses. Like we have stuff going on, but the term entrepreneur is totally like
it's it's
dry, man. Like it's totally overused. It's what Instagrammers put on their feed, to pat themselves on the back.
Yeah, it's a kind of entrepreneur in the beginning was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was a big thing.
And that's the only way you
like
did it.
Sam Walton, Warren Buffett, and all those other big names who really created all these giant industries that are around now. Now everybody calls himself an entrepreneur. Look at a network marketing conglomerate.
Yeah, like you mean like independent consultant,
independent sales consultant, or independent rep, or something like that.
Yeah,
they're calling themselves an entrepreneur, and it's their business only because they are representing themselves and they are doing the work to build their personal brand. But not really, because they didn't create the materials that they're selling. They didn't do all the marketing. They didn't build the websites. All that shit was handed to them because the people who established that company originally, those are the entrepreneurs. They're the ones with the idea. They're the ones who created the service or the product. They're the ones who marketed it. They're the ones who established it and got it off the ground to promote and to sell to these new independent consultants or clients or reps.
Yes.
To do their work for them. You're just a salesman for that company.
It's fluffy titles.
And it's
fluffy titles
exactly.
to sound like you've got something going on better than you are. And it's like, you don't have to jump through all these mega hurdles. Plus there's tiny ways. If you're not looking to make like a shit ton of money, there's tons of little things you can do. Like you can pick up a little side hustle. Like everybody should have a side hustle.
Because whether you turn it like a little personal project into a hobby that you can make some cash off. Say you like restoring old cars. as your side hustle.
Dude, flip cars then.
Flip cars.
Yeah.
How hard is it? Arm roll the dash. There's an extra $10, you know?
Seriously, like if you know, like people like Gary Vaynerchuk, and like people who like he's, I don't know if you've seen some of his stuff where he you know, he's a multimillionaire. Gary Vaynerchuk's brilliant when it comes to social media and that kind of stuff. And he likes garage sailing and like reselling shit on eBay, right? And it's like that's a creative little way to make some money. And of course, like he's got like $200 million company. Like thing's horrendous.
Oh yeah.
But like
he's not hurt.
He enjoys flipping stuff and making little money that way, like finding little chunks of value and like getting it. Like you can flip stuff. You can like almost anyone can run social media.
Oh,
like
easy.
You know what I mean? Well, like you go to a company that, you know, their Facebook page, you got 800,000 followers and 3 likes on every post. Dude, if you can get in there, if you can find a contact in there and you can do some work, like you can come up with some creative content.
Yeah.
And just like fucking bang, there you go. You have something there, and all of a sudden they're starting to get more engagement, and they're like, oh, we'll cut you a check for that. And it's like people will pay thousands of dollars for, you know, something that you're doing right now. Like you're trolling Facebook.
Yeah.
And you know how that works, or you're a YouTube buff or whatever. Like you know how these platforms work. If you can like convince a bigger company or anybody that has a thing going to give you a little bit of money to help them out, or to run it for him, like you can make a shit ton of money. The other thing too is like you just gotta know what it is you're looking at. If you want to, like, there's a certain amount of requirements that come with $1 million.
Oh, absolutely.
Which $1 million is totally like a cliche amount of money. Like that's what everybody.
$1 million isn't $1 million.
That's that right there is an American thing. They're like, oh, you know, what's your dream amount of money? And everyone's like, dude, $1 million.
Yeah. Yes. That's the same thing when you walk into a room now and you're like, hey, what's your big money goal? And they say $1 million.
Dude, that's a joke.
It's not actually $1 million, because by the time you get that $1 million, you don't get to keep that $1 million.
No, because like you gotta pay taxes, guys. This is America.
Oh yeah, everybody gets their piece of the pie, you know, even after your hard work.
And you should. You can't use missiles, and it's nice to have paved roads that don't smash the shit out of your Mercedes.
Yeah, right.
Just to let you, I don't have a Mercedes, but I'm assuming.
I'm
assuming for Mercedes owners that you worry about low hanging curbs and things of that nature. It basically comes down to learning and creativity. And that's the best way to make any amount of money more than you have going on. And the other thing too is, dude, ask. Like if you're a good employee, you show up all the time, you're always asking for more like responsibility.
You show up early, you stay late.
That's right. You got a positive attitude.
You bust your ass.
Dude, go ask for money. But dude, think about it, reasonable. Like, don't ask for like a double what you're making, or $4 or $5 more.
They're gonna laugh at you.
You'd be like, they'd be like, well, your boss is gonna negotiate with you.
Of course.
Unless he's like a douche or she's just like out of her mind.
Right.
Like they're gonna be like, okay, well, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Like open up a dialogue.
And if you're gonna walk in and ask for a raise, ask a little more than what you're willing to settle for. So like that way,
it's negotiation.
Have some negotiation wiggle room. So say like you're making $10 an hour for easy math. You're busting your ass all day long. You come in early. You're the model of a perfect employee. And you're like, you know what? I've been here for fucking 2 years. It's time for some more money.
Yeah.
Walk into your boss's office. Be polite about it, of course. Don't kick in the fucking door when they're on the phone or in a business meeting.
Yeah. Schedule something.
Just say, hey, you know, when you have a moment, I want to chat with you.
Because if you're good, they want to keep you. Because you're making them, odds are good, 8 to 10 times more
than what they're paying you.
Than what they're paying you. Like if you're a salary, like we know some people that work, you know, we have some engineer friends and all that. Like they're making decent money, like 5 figures. You know,
yeah.
They're making, I don't know, they're making like 55, 60, 65, 70,000 a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, in order for the company to pay them $50,000 a year, which is that's like a 25-year salary for the most people in the trades and shit like that. Like, think about how much money you have to bring a company. Now, if it's 10 times, dude, you need to bring $500,000 of value in order for them to justify paying it. So, if you want to make 20 an hour, 30 an hour, 40 an hour, 50 an hour, like I remember when $50 an hour would have been like mind-blowingly shit ton of money.
I would have had a fucking heart attack.
Dude, that was a lot.
At the thought of making that kind of money.
Like when I started working, I was making $10 an hour. We were working like 55 hours, 50 hours on average a week.
On average.
Like we were working hard, we busted our butt, but it was $10 an hour. I thought I was doing something good. Of course, I was junior in high school.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it didn't have any experience.
That was a couple days ago.
No, that was a few days ago. That was years ago. I get a raise. I get a raise from 10 to 12. Now that doesn't sound like much, but that's 20% increase on your yearly salary. That's a ton of money.
That is a big bump.
In order for them to justify that amount of bump, you got to bring some kind of value of something. Even if, like, dude, they will pay you more if you have a good positive attitude and you help, like, keep other people motivated at work. That's worth an extra $1. Dude, just for a smile. Anyone who doesn't know who Jim Rohn is, you got to YouTube that. You got to get that guy up there. JIMROHN. If you haven't heard any of his stuff, dude, you're missing out.
Oh, big time.
Because like that
he was Tony Robbins'
mentor. Yeah, the guy who trained Tony Robbins. Like the other thing too is don't be in a hurry. Like that's honestly, I run into that all the time where I'm like, yo, I want to stack on some more zeros to the, I want to make some money, Yeah. And being in a hurry for it often is what takes you out, because you put in your 6 months, a year, 2 years, and you're like, dude, I should already be rolling up in my Bentley.
Yeah, right.
And it's like it's not happening. Like you got to be patient. Like good things come, but they take time. They take time to create. Like it's like you're not gonna sit here and we're not breaking any ground. No. This is nothing new. Like this is all basic stuff.
This is the same basic shit that no one even listens to because they're too caught up in their own personal drama.
No, and it's easy to get like you're stuck and you just kind of come up with some kind of creative way to make money. Because the other thing too is I actually just saw a video. I'm not sure if you watched it. Casey Neistat, YouTuber. Casey Neistat, he's a dope YouTuber. Love his videos. I've been a subscriber for a long time. He actually just put out a video doing it was like a rich versus poor video. Oh yeah. And it was like there was an article that was recently published, an interview that I think it was something like it was talking about this guy who's like he was making like $1.2 million a year or something like that. It was like successful, rich, and he was like wildly unhappy. Yeah. Right. It was he was making a lot of money.
He was an unfulfilled millionaire.
And then they had a comparison of like a janitor at like a hospital. Who wasn't, he's cleaning out like bedpans and like sweeping the floor and
stuff.
But
the
dude was like pumped, and he had some fulfillment in his job because he knew what it would meant, and the money wasn't as important as what it was and what he stood for as part of his job. And I think one of the biggest problems, especially people inside of our age bracket right now, is we all want to make a ton of money, and we're not necessarily concerned with the fulfillment end of it. That was one of the things, like when we were going through school, man, we were shuffled through and going to college was like a necessity. Like people I didn't go to college. You didn't go to college.
No, definitely not. I didn't even have a chance to even dream of college. I was too busy trying to fucking pay my way.
To make money.
Not to mention survive and help my family get through all their fucking shit at that time.
Yeah, and it was like, if you don't go to college, you won't get a high-paying job, and you won't make any money. And like early on, and that was something that when we were going through school, man, it was almost like you were embarrassed to say that you weren't going to college. Like only a few people out of my class didn't go to college, and of course I graduated with like 40-something kids, so it wasn't a ton. Like I had a small graduating class, but the majority were going to college.
Oh, absolutely. It's the same thing for my graduating class. I mean,
and the value,
I had like 50.
Exactly.
I was like one of 54, and I want to say I was like one of 6 that didn't go to college.
Yeah, and it was like they were like, you need to go and get a job to be successful and to make money. No one was like, oh, you need to go to college to find out who you are to be happy. Like that's not the other end of it. Like I would rather them push me to school to try to find out what makes me happy versus what makes a lot of money. Right. And it's like we've all been in a job where we're like,
fuck this place.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't think so. I don't feel good here. I don't want to be. I don't feel like I'm making a mark. And it's like
you didn't feel like you're doing anything significant.
The satisfaction will always outweigh the money. The majority of people won't. You won't really get that until you try to make some money and you're making money and you're like, this is stupid. And I'm gonna go back to like beekeeping or whatever it is that you're into. Yeah. So it's like, You should. Everyone should try to make money. Money is a good thing. They're freedom units that help you enjoy your life and give you some opportunity.
And how American society is established as such, where you need those freedom units, money
and a substantial amount for the average person
in order to stay alive.
Yeah.
Let alone try to pursue your dreams.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, we all grew up hearing, money is the root of all evil,
which is horseshit.
So, which would explain why priests don't get paid shit, why school teachers don't get paid shit.
Good things don't deserve a lot of money.
You can't associate a good thing with money because money's evil. But it's okay for strippers to make 6 figures, 7 figures sometimes if they're good.
Yeah.
Go to a peep show in Vegas. I haven't been to one. But
you should have seen the look on his face right there. That was hilarious. Anyway, continue.
Now I'm all flustered.
Continue on your rant.
So somebody goes into a strip club and they drop $300, $400, their entire weekly paycheck on something that's evil.
That actually brings up a different point where you don't necessarily need a lot of money if you don't have a lot of bills.
Absolutely.
And right now, I see everybody is walking around with AirPods and all this latest tech and shit, and I'm wondering how much
Air Jordans on their feet.
I'm wondering how much debt and how much what people are spending.
Oh yeah,
on useless shit.
Well, I lived with a buddy who went online and customized these sneakers online. He dropped at least $250 on these sneakers.
That's insane.
It was stupid. So he drops his money. You know how many times he fucking wore those things? Once. When he bought them. One day. And then he hung up on his shoe rack and never touched the damn things.
And that comes down to I just totally burped in the middle of speaking. And I almost just puked. I shouldn't have had that chicken. You gotta cut down your expenses, and you gotta find a way to make a little bit more money. But ultimately, it should be something you enjoy to do, so it's sustainable. Right?
Yeah.
You get into that situation where that guy did $1.2 million as a stockbroker or a banker or whatever he is, and he's there are tons of people that have so much money. They have the world by the balls. They got 3-4 houses. They're living out in LA, driving the Rolls Royce, all this shit, and they're what? They're seeing therapists.
Yeah.
And they're I can't just, it won't buy happiness. And it's dude, no.
Well, no.
You don't need happiness. You need joy.
Yeah,
happiness
absolutely.
is conditional. It's totally conditional.
Oh, absolutely.
The pursuit of happiness, honestly, that doesn't make much sense to me. I'm dude, you can just originate joy. You can just be a joyful person and take joy in what you're doing.
Oh, definitely.
You know what? Fuck happiness.
Yeah.
Fuck happiness.
One thing I always found was hilarious was when someone told me, money makes you evil. Money is an amplifier. Give a douchebag $100.
It's gonna be a douchebag with $100. It
It
depends on the quality of person that they are.
Yes.
Who you are on the inside is who you're gonna be just with more money.
Exactly.
Let's not be real. As soon as you give somebody $1 million, they're gonna be a great philanthropist,
or they're gonna be a jerk.
They're not gonna be Wolf of Wall Street just because they made money. If they're a good person, And sometimes, dude, it does go to your head.
What colors to come in?
The instant,
I'll have all of them.
Everyone's done this where they get a little a windfall or a little boost of money. Next thing you know, dude, they're just throwing bills left and right. Dude, you're taking everybody out.
Look at lottery winners. It's the same thing. They don't understand the concept of money. They don't move out to where that money is. So they win the lottery. And what do? They spend every freaking dime, and they end up in 5 years right back where they started before they even got that ticket.
So the other thing is you gotta, if you wanna have something, you need to understand it a little bit, right? It's you're not, to go back to some of the Jim Rohn stuff that we were talking about. One of the things that he always said, you're gonna reap what you sow, and this is something that you hear all the time. What you put in is kind of what you get out. If you go outside and you start a little garden and you plant cucumbers or zucchini, dude, you're getting zucchini.
You're not getting pumpkins.
You're not going to get pumpkins. You're not going to grow corn from zucchini. Everyone knows you plant one thing of zucchini, you get a fuck ton of zucchinis because that's how zucchini is, right? You get more than what you plant, but you always get what it is that you're planting, right? Yes. If you're not sowing seeds of wealth, you're not going to make money. And we're all in a journey to make something of ourselves and to find out what we're capable of and to make money and to share and to have an experience. And that's money allows you to do these things. In American society, that is mega pounded. Mega pounded. It's everywhere you go. Like they're all yo, you gotta make some money, getting that cash, baby. Like that's what it's about, because
that's the only way you'll be happy is to have some money.
It's expensive to live here. It's like where we are right now, this is still relatively cheap. You go to places like New York, LA, where it gets a little bit tight, yo. It's like
Chicago.
Some of my friends out in LA, they're paying a ton of money for like a shitty little apartment.
What's your actor buddy paying? He's paying like,
I don't know. It was like 2,400. Like one of my friends went out there,
stupid like
2,400, and he has to like split it with a bunch of people. Yeah. Like you can't have your space because it's like
you can't afford it on your own.
You can't afford it on your own. It's because they haven't broken and haven't paid their dues and haven't made a system that brings them money, and their expenses are too high. Like if you were getting paid $10 an hour, you worked 50 hours a week, but you only had like $300 a month in bills, dude, you'd be swimming in cash, right? If you lived with your parents and you had a full-time job making like $12 an hour at like an IHOP,
you're making more than your lifestyle.
You need to don't let your lifestyle take you down. Like as soon as anyone gets an influx of money, this has totally happened to me.
Oh, it's happened to me too.
You get some money, you're like, oh shit, time to upgrade my clothes, yo, and then all of a sudden
it's like, well, that was stupid. Now I'm late on rent.
You spent it, and now you're sitting there. Sure, your closet looks better, but
you're still hungry.
You're gonna wear those out, man.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be, that's all you got.
Well, and I always see these posts kicking around now where you have Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates in the same room and not a Gucci belt on them.
Oh, dude, yes.
Dude, it's the same. It's the same fucking thing. Don't live outside. Don't spend out and live outside of your means.
And you'll never run out of money.
And you'll be good. You'll be good.
Because the other thing too is it's not necessarily building up a financial wall to make sure that you can have the car you want or to live where you want. Money is totally security, and it's like right now we live in a good, like people our age, we don't know bad times because like 2008, like we were still in school. Like you graduated like 2000.
It was 2008.
2008. Like you graduated
when the bubble popped.
When you got to make sure that you're planning. Like you got to make sure you're planning for when this kind of stuff goes down. And that's another thing is like making money and keeping money.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that your expenses are low, that you're making some cash, and you got to learn a little bit about how this kind of stuff works. Yeah. We'll link some really good articles. We'll link some good videos that we think would kind of help you out on your quest to earn some more cha-chang and to kind of understand like a long-term way to make some more money, because this is something that we've done. Like, once you know something that somebody else doesn't know, you can make some money. Get a skill. Like, oh, dude, you're really good at painting. Like, oh, you're really good at, Excel, or you're really good at, like, I don't know, doing, like, making sure the ice is perfectly smooth on a college skating rink. Like, if you can do these things, someone's going to pay you. And if you're good at what you love, they'll pay you to do what you love, and you'll make a shit ton of money. You also got to put some thought into it.
Yeah.
You have to be a little bit strategic. You can do what you love to do and get paid, but just by doing what you love, you might not.
Yeah.
Right? You have to give something to somebody else.
You have to give value in order to get the financial compensation.
It's not about making $1 million. It's about giving
$1 million. And then you'll get $100,000.
Well, it depends.
Or
like,
whatever.
If I'm like, if I generate $1 million in sales and I have a 1-to-1 commission, right? That's making $1 million. Like there you go. Yeah. Like basically, you gotta find out where you're at. You gotta know how much you got going on. What do you got for debt? What do you got for money? Like you gotta actually sit down with this thing called pencil and paper, or dude, open up a note. You just gotta do a little accounting. Right?
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is if you want something you've never had, dude, you got to do something you've never done. That's basically it. We'll link some more stuff down below. Thank you for listening to some babble.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys, for episode 1. We got a little off topic, but
as is the way. Leave your comments and thumbs up below. Let us know what you think. What are your opinions on making some moolah? What do you think's important? What do you think that you should do? What's a good recommendation? Because really, when you guys leave comments, that's when stuff actually gets done. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, have fun.